It's time to get real about shit and have some hard conversations and rip apart topics to make sure we advocate for every angle of that topic. Welcome to the Devil's Advocate, brought to you by DeViL's. Give your fandom a recharge, and hosted by the uncanny indie devil, Mr. Anderson. Follow all the comics Devil's tales at MrAnderson.com.
Original music by Unicorn Heads for the YouTube audio library. This music is free for you to use on YouTube videos. Find the music in YouTube audio library in the Creator Studio. Search Unicorn Heads.
And now on to the topic. The opinions expressed in the following broadcast are not necessarily those of DeViL's Media LLC, its staff, contributors, or sponsors. Viewer discretion is advised. So Varian made sure that I had to put that in twice. He wanted to make sure you knew that I wasn't speaking for Varian. He's like, make sure you tell everyone that it has nothing to do with me, what you guys are saying tonight. You tell everyone on the radio that you are just doing this on DeViL. So it's been said that this is not Varian encouraging me. He didn't tell me to come out and say whatever I wanted to. He didn't say to get my numbers to be higher than his other shows. He didn't say that there would be a bonus in it for me. I think I've said too much. So let me introduce some people. We have the very talented JD. JD, tell them who you are.
How you doing, everybody? My name is JD Calderon, and I'm the writer and creator of the Oswald Chronicles and Tall Tales. And currently we have a Kickstarter running for Tall Tales, so if you want, you can go check that out on the website, talltalesonline.com.
All right. And we also have coming in hot, Brian K. Morris is in the house with us.
Well, thank goodness I didn't wait till the last minute, right, Rob? Anyway, glad to be here. I'm Brian K. Morris, Rising Tide Publications, risingtide.pub. We also we do comic books, we do regular books. We also do 3 times a week talk show. It's interactive. You can be the guest. It's called Nevermind the Furthermore at 10 a.m. Monday, Wednesday, Fridays. And on Tuesday nights, we do a talk show, an interview show called Clever Title Pending, where we talk about creativity and the business behind it. And this coming Tuesday, I've got the boys and girl from this new company called Terraform Comics, including one indie devil, a comics devil. I'm really looking forward to talking to them. I hear they're swell.
Yeah, don't believe everything you hear.
I believe in about 4/5 of them. How does that sound?
There you go. So we're here tonight. This is the Devil's Advocate on DeViL, which means we're going to rip apart topics. We're going to look at them from all different angles. Today we're talking about Evolve or Die. The comic book industry is changing. Are you a dinosaur or something that can evolve? Wow, it's a loaded topic. Don't you wish it was a year ago when everyone said comics were dying? And it was so much of a simpler time. Like, I will take that comics is dying. We're going to start off with the most painful aspect of this. No one cares in mainstream media coverage of what we're going through. No one's talking about the loss of cons. We keep hearing about those poor actors not able to act. We keep hearing about those poor musicians who don't get a stadium to fill. We hear about all that, but no one talks about the Comic Cons going away. No one talks about the fact that we have been basically had our for a lot of us, the way we made our living just stolen from us because of this pandemic. And of course, it's no one's fault. This entire program is not about finger pointing. I just want to put it out and let everyone talk to you in this room. Now, I stress not everyone has had a horrible pandemic. Some people have found a way to survive and even a little bit thrive. But that's the evolve or die part of the portion of the programming. What is painful is knowing that we're being ignored. We're being just, oh, well, they just make funny books. What does it matter? You know, who cares? Who cares they're not around? Despite Avengers breaking billion-dollar records last year, it wasn't enough for them to start taking it seriously. So not only do I want to open that up, but I also want to ask the first question. Do you think that during this evolution of comics, we have to finally teach people that comics are important? We'll start with Brian on this one. Brian, take it away.
Well, Rob, as far as are comics important, I think we've reminded some people of that, mainly some retailers who, when the pandemic and the lockdowns began, suddenly realized Diamond, their only artery for new product, wasn't supplying them anymore. And a number of retailers opened up their doors more to independent comic books. And I would say probably at least the ones I know of, the ones who did that are the ones who weathered the storm pretty well. And as a result, we have our work in the hands of more fans now than we did before. Now, because they didn't have a new Avengers, they didn't have a new Batman. Well, we might as well check out these other books, Hybrids and Cat Dance Supermom and all these, really terrific books. Hey, they're every bit as good as the stuff coming from Image or Dark Horse and any of those. So, I think in one way we have survived the pandemic pretty well. Plus, there have been some very successful Kickstarter campaigns, such as Cat Dance Supermom, also Eric Hawkins' Zombie for World of Oz #2, Hybrid Sons of Gods by Luke Stone. So I would say that, yes, we've had to change our business model on the fly, but one advantage we have as independent creators is that we don't have to report to a board of directors. We don't have to report to the legal department or the marketing department and wait for them to make up their minds. We can take action right now, and I think a number of creators have benefited from that. So, JD, what do you think?
Well, as an independent creator, I'm actually accustomed to being very much ignored by the mainstream. So it doesn't really bother me. It doesn't even really concern me. My main concern is always reaching out to my constituency, the people who follow me on either Facebook or who have on my mailing list. And through that mailing list, I've been able to launch, I think I did at least 2. I did one Indiegogo and at least one Kickstarter that's running out in a couple of days that are successful. And really, that's the only thing I'm focusing on at this time. And it's just reaching out to those people who want comics. If they want them, they're going to come get them. And that's pretty much how I look at it. It's just keep doing what I've been doing anyway. As far as the loss of conventions, it's a tragedy. But I'll be honest with you, I've only been doing a couple a year for the last 2 or 3 years. So it hasn't really affected me one way or the other.
And I do want to mention, it is July 4th here in the United States. I know over in England, you guys call it the War of Insurrection. So if you hear explosions in the background, that's because that's what's going on right now. Because I live in Florida, which is basically a powder keg most nights with fireworks during the 4th of July. So you might be hearing some stuff. I do want to talk on a little bit. First off, I never introduced myself because I know the radio audience might not be totally used to me yet. My name is Mr. Anderson. I am known as the Entertaining Indie Devil because I won't go away no matter how much they tell me to. And I create stories about fetish, monsters, and more. I'm in a dark room because it's Indie Vault after dark. So for those watching us, remember you can reach out to us. We now have the Devil's Advocate on Indie Vault as a Facebook page, so you guys can give us direct feedback and let us know what's going on. I don't have anyone today right now from actually the Indie Vault environment to help me with the radio right now. I'm assuming we're there live for the radio Indie Vault radio audience, and I hope you guys are hearing us. I just put in also the invite link. Everyone is invited to be part of this show. We can get up to 10 people in. You can come in and have your say. And of course, Brian K. Morris is trying to show how cool he is with the sunglasses in the middle of the night.
It is dark in here.
I will say this: what's not cool, and beyond the lack of coverage, is the way that we've kind of clowned ourselves as independent creators. And this is Independence Day, and I think the one thing we have to do is become independent of being told who we are. For far too long, we've been told what we're allowed to do and what we're not allowed to do. What books we can write, what books we shouldn't write, even down to how we price our books. If you ask the average creator, well, why do you price your books that way? Well, because Marvel and DC do it. Did you stop and think about why they do that? No, I'm just trying to compete with them. Like, independent creators just aren't thinking straight. Starbucks didn't start out by going, oh my God, what does Dunkin' Donuts charge? We have to charge just like them. There wouldn't be a Starbucks today if they did that. You have to put out quality products. We have allowed our industry to be called a disposable, throwaway event for fans. Oh, it's nothing major. It's just, you read it and you throw it away. And then when you go to a con, you have these creators, these artists who are creating fan art who will charge $10. And now hold on to your asses, kids. This one's going to blow you away. You're paying $10 for a 50-cent copy at Kinko's. Generally, I want you to understand that you paid $10 for something that will not retain its value. There is no value in copies. Comic books aren't copies; they're printed materials. There's a difference. That's why comic books become valuable. Those art, you have to have original art. So the next time you think that a comic book is too expensive at $5 for 32 pages, counting the cover, or will we price them at Terraform Comics for $6.99 for 32 pages, counting the cover? Remember that you paid $10 for one image. We're giving you 32 pages of images. So what do you guys think about that? Because I mean, it's a sad statement. I have advocated for indie comics for 5 years. By the way, happy birthday, Indie Vault Universe. Indie Vault Universe turned 3 today. And for 3 years, Variant has been around with the group, doing all the things they got to do. And in the end of the day, I'll be honest with everybody, we all come down to the same thing. Everyone prices versus Marvel and DC. When did Marvel and DC become daddy, J.D. Calderon?
Since everyone started. But the thing is, though, is like, it all depends. I started very early on. I started in the early 90s. I never priced my books against Marvel and DC. You want to keep it somewhere close, but your main thing is you have to find out what your core costs are and work from there. You have to find out what it's going to cost you to print the book, what it's going to cost you to ship the book, what it costs you to employ your people and all your expenses. Then you distill that down, you find out how many books you're printing, and then you got to price according to that number. And that's it. It's simple. It's math. I mean, if you can't work a calculator, and own a business, I advise finding someone who can do it for you, because it's not that difficult. You just price according to the price you can sell it at. Right now I'm doing digital comics. I know digital comics going to cost me $2. So if I'm selling to a retailer, I got to make sure I price it at accordingly. I price it at maybe $6, give them 50% off, and make $1 on it. I don't make a killing, but at least I make a little bit of something. I'm certainly not losing any money. So that's the one thing everybody got to watch out for.
Now, you said you're making digital comics. I just want you to clarify. I think I understand what you mean, but people might be confused. You're meaning PDFs.
No. There's two types, right? You can do a PDF, which is just a download, or you can do what's called on-demand printing. Okay, so on-demand printing or print on demand is basically what you're doing is printing on digital printers. So digital printers, they do smaller runs. You can do 1 book, you can do 50 books, do 100 books. If you want a larger run, 1,000 books, you're going offset and that sort of thing, web presses, that sort of thing. So you're gonna get a lower price per piece. So for 1,000 books or 2,000 books, which is usually what you want to do, if it's color, black and white, maybe $1, 89 cents a book, maybe 90 cents a book. You can even get a lower depending where you're printing. So you just got to shop around. Now with digital, since you're doing much smaller, the core cost is higher for the people printing it, because they pay what's called per click, and that click price is the same. It's a fixed price. It never changes. Doesn't go up, doesn't go down. I only know this because I've worked in digital printing for years, and I know there's a fixed price for that. So there it is. You just have to price it according to that. So if you know your core cost, you can work your magic from there.
And we are being joined right now by Randy Zimmerman. Randy, how is your July 4th going?
It's good. It's good.
So
no complaints.
Oh, my camera's off. We're just talking about why there's this tendency to try to price like Marvel and DC, and why we've been allowing people to call us disposable entertainment for so long now.
What?
And you know how we're considered disposable entertainment by some people?
We're not disposable entertainment?
I don't think so.
When did this happen?
I think in the 60s.
I'm just kidding, Rob. Just being an ass. Sorry. Go ahead. Your thought.
No, well, we'll let Brian talk because Brian was next. Then you can kind of just give us your opinion on it. Brian, go ahead.
Well, I agree that I only compare, like, when I write a comic book or edit or whatever, I do kind of keep quality in mind, so that if you compare my product to, say, something that comes from a larger publisher that you can put the two side by side and judge them on their own merits, and hopefully I'll come up close to that the standard that the mainstream companies have had. But JD had some great points about pricing and all, and what a lot of indie creators don't realize is that like he said, we can do print on demand and just print what we need, even if it's like 25 copies, 100, whatever. Marvel, DC, a lot of these guys print thousands of copies, and I mean thousands upon thousands. And so, the more you print, the more your unit price goes down, namely the price of each comic, and you can spread out your costs of production, such as paying your talent, all the editorial people, promotion, etc., etc. You spread the cost of that over each issue, which again drives that per unit price down. So, a lot of creators don't realize that. Plus, the thing is, and this has become something I'm only now noticed, is advertising. A lot of us in the indie field don't go for advertising, which, we can debate all day whether that's a mistake or not. But DC and Marvel, and Dark Horse, any of these guys will still have advertising from outside places. I'm not talking about house ads where they advertise their own product, but like movies, aftershave, television shows, video games, whatever. That helps drive the price down by offsetting some of the expenses of production. So, we just, like JD said, we have to just simply take our expenses and figure out what is a reasonable price for the comic book based on your expenses, which is why keep your expenses low as much as you can. So
I just want to say before I pass this to Randy, then we're going to talk about Ralph's thing. If you guys see me sitting with my crossed arms in the video, I have a bit of a chest injury causing me chest pain, and crossing my arms like this relieves the pressure. So I just wanted everyone to know it's not a judgment of anyone saying anything. Take us away, Randy. What do you think? Why do we become disposable?
Really? Because I do this all the time. I mean, everybody.
I'm hypersensitive. Like, because you're like, Rob's trying to flex.
Right.
Rob's trying to look big on camera again. Put your shirt on, Rob.
So we're talking about comics as disposable entertainment, or comics as opposed to the alternatives chasing after Marvel and DC.
Well, we're kind of doing the what's this mean to the industry, so I wanted to start. So the topic right now we're at is we have allowed our industry to be sold as disposable to fans, and we're actually selling our books $3.99 to compete with Marvel and DC. We could never compete with Marvel and DC. We're not set up the way they are. But then we allow the idea that fan art can be sold for $10, and we all know that fan art's 50 cents to print. How did we allow comics to become such cheap book that we're afraid to put the price as reasonable? A reasonable price, I would say, for a 32-page book is $6.99. That's reasonable, especially in indie when it's not 18 pages and then, like Brian was saying, 18 pages of ads. It's not the even mix. We don't have ads.
You're talking to a guy that for a decade put a comics paper out in his neighborhood, moved 10,000 copies, advertiser supported, free to readers. So the idea here, as far as comics or sequential art goes, and something that I hope people are starting to wrap their head around, is that it's really a totally creative market, and we absolutely have to go out and find creative means to get sequential art out in front of people. That means we don't have to follow anybody. We don't have to do, our books don't have to be $3.99. Look at Peter Simeti. He's kicking ass as Alterna Comics at $1.99, at $4.99, and he's showing a lot of story for $4.99. There are all sorts of other avenues to go. There's all sorts of different avenues to reach, and man, just before I come on the air, I popped up on my Facebook page and saw they have those silly little memory. Hey, remember this photograph from so long ago? Kind of things. And let me share my screen here, real quick. This was a big one for me. That's a set of newspaper boxes that we set up all around the county for people to walk up and come in and just grab a paper. You know? That we cleaned those out in my garage. We got them from a real estate magazine that went out of business. And I spent the day going through, washing them out, cleaning them up, re-stickering them. And then I had the pleasure of driving around the county and dropping them off in different places. In front of restaurants, in front of grocery stores, that kind of thing. And the point is that it really is up to us to get creative with how we're going to get these comics out there in front of people. You know, you don't have to do the same thing that you've always done. You don't have to fit in the same bag. You don't have to fit in the same board. You don't have to go and even get slabbed by CDC. I don't want to get slabbed by CDC because I'd rather be red than have encased in amber. That's just the way I feel about it.
And by the way, I want to say this, and Varian has joined us as well. Happy birthday to Randy and Varian. 3 years of DeViL's. We said it at the top of the show, but now I get to say it to both of them.
Believe me, that's all Varian. I'm just riding his coattails.
Still, you make the shows interesting.
Yeah, I couldn't have done without Randy, but I do want to say that I am shocked, appalled, and quite frankly besmirched that in my, while I had my back turned, while I was celebrating this Festivus, Brian K. Morris crept onto my show on my air.
Brian, is this the first time you've been on DeViL's?
This is the first time I have been on air, and now I would never, ever say that I use some sort of subterfuge to get on here. I was invited. Now, I refuse to say who, but because I don't want to out him or anything. But no. Now that's the pinnacle of my career, Varian, in broadcasting. So if I'm like called to the angels in the next 45 minutes or so, I'll go quietly.
All right.
Because because how does it get any better than this?
Yeah,
I ask you. I mean, sell my clothes, Mom. I'm going to heaven.
Yeah, this is the top right here. No, I just wanted to come in. I seen you guys were on, and I said, let me pop in there and stick my head into the meeting, and
Yeah. I do want to say, Varian.
I get it.
Varian, I did show twice the warning that everything we're saying is not at all related to you. This is not going to fall on you. I showed it twice. I didn't tell them about the bonuses you're offering me to get higher ratings by saying messed up things. I did not tell anyone that. I don't care what they tell you.
Yeah, because I just learned that our ratings are actually our television ratings are 65 and plus. So we got to make sure we hit those 65-year-old and up crowd on DeViL's TV.
That's why I brought Brian. Come on.
Yeah.
Man, I
couldn't believe when I seen those numbers. There's gonna be a big meeting Monday about those numbers. I know that.
Speaking of numbers, are we on the radio?
I can pull them up. Give me a second.
Suddenly, there's going to be a lot more geriatric screening movies.
Yeah. Do your legs hurt? Get this medicine.
You worry about jingles.
Can you barely read the comics you're ordering?
The new PDF Expando pack.
One second, I will pull up the numbers here.
So, but I love
you.
Go ahead.
So you guys are sitting at 23. Yeah, 23,000 right now. So appreciate it. 23,000. Want to thank our friends in Mexico and Australia.
Nice.
Good morning.
Sweet.
Well, good morning, Australia. I think.
Yeah, good morning.
Mexico is just in our time zone. So.
Pretty much, maybe an hour or two behind us. So.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pop out, but happy 4th to you guys.
Happy 4th and happy birthday.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
Happy 4th, Brian.
You guys.
Take care.
All right.
Don't blow off your fingers.
Yeah, really. You saw that? Today's the day where American will wake up with 10 fingers and go to sleep with less. I was like, wow, that's actually true. Made me think of a New York Giants player who actually did that 1 year. So I loved what you said, though. You're right, Randy. We cannot let people make the rules for us. It's one of those things where I don't understand it. I don't know why people in this industry have allowed it, other than to just think that they think that when they jump to the next level, they're just going to leave everything behind. But the one truth in comics is you go up and then you come back down, sometimes multiple times.
Well, it really is a Pavlovian response, is what it is. They've been conditioned over and over, years and years of a comic book is this size, a comic book is this width, a comic book needs to be this paper, a comic has to fit into this bag, it has to be backed by this board, and blah, blah, blah. And that's not, when growing up, there were Garfield books that were, strip collections that were elongated, and there were Big Little books out there that practically nobody realizes exist anymore, that are just little treasures. They tried to print comics, and back in the early days, in every format you can imagine. Even the format we have now is not the format they started out with.
That's why we have the different bags. If you ever go to a comic book store, they ask you what size bag you want. There are magazine-size bags. There's the Silver Age bags. I actually like the Silver Age bags, to be honest with you. It's easier to get the comics in and out. And believe it or not, Silver Age bags fit in the same boxes that we put our comics in.
Yeah.
But if you do that during shipping, you can what do they call it? Dog ear the corners.
Yeah.
We damage them a little bit. So I had to switch them. For my personal collection, I use the bigger ones. But here's one I want to know.
I really think right now is the ideal time, though, for creative people, independent people, and entrepreneurs to sit down and recreate the wheel and teach us how to do it better.
I wanted to get to Ralph's comment, and I agree with you completely, Randy. He said, you are seeing more indie readers and indie creators networking like never before during this pandemic. And to be honest with you, Ralph, I disagree. I see a lot of them getting lazy. They tried right away. You saw it, Randy. Remember, everyone had a YouTube show suddenly. Everyone was Facebook Living for all of 1 month. And then it got hard. They couldn't get an audience, and they gave up. And now you're seeing less of it. And we have these horrible online conventions that, even worse, try to charge for the things they do. And I don't think people are getting it. I don't think that they understand the evolve or die. So we're going to talk about the comic book shops.
Well, again, Rob, they're out there trying something, and that's the key thing. They go out and try. They do what they need. The problem is they look at discussions like ours on YouTube, Facebook, or wherever, and they go, I can do that, not a problem. Not realizing that it's a broadcast medium, and it is a bit of an art form, and you do have to build up some chops and skills in order to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't mean to diminish those who tried. I'm making fun of them giving up after a month. You haven't learned anything in a month. You know what I mean? Like, you're just starting still. It took me 7 months to learn how to talk to the camera the right way and not constantly looking down at it. And I see you, Brian. I'm going to pass it right to you.
I'm still looking down. I never look directly at the camera.
Well, no, I'd have my sister be like, you can't put on arm down. Stop drinking while you're doing it. Close your car windows. Like, it was all these things I never thought of, and I still do some of it. But the car windows, that makes sense, because like I'd be at the highway at 70 miles per hour.
Car videos, though, I dread the day when somebody gets into an accident while they're talking on their podcast, because that's the day that it's going to end up on the fail army.
You just see the arm like, it's like this.
Yeah,
it's right on.
Yeah.
Like,
that's when your image will fail. That's when your image will freeze, Rob.
Suddenly you see a body go rolling by, and you go, "Oh, I think I just hit something. I'm going to have to go."
It's more like,
yeah, exactly.
But Brian,
I don't know what that was. Hope it was a squirrel.
Well, also in the state of Indiana, as of 3 days ago, for what Rob does, if he were to be caught doing it, he'd be pulled over and ticketed. Some states are getting strict about not about broadcasting, but using cell phones while driving. But anyway, to amplify on your point, Rob, you make a great point about how a number of creators were trying new things. Like Randy said, that they're trying new things. They're trying to throw stuff up against the wall to see what sticks. But the problem is, a lot of them don't know that, even when we don't have a pandemic, that it takes time to build a following, to get people to accept your product, whatever it is, whether it's comics or broadcasting or what. I keep saying that it takes a long, long time to become an overnight success.
Yeah. Yep.
And there are guys that have been doing this for decades, and hardly anybody knows who they are, but at least they're still trying. But then there are people that put out one comic and can't understand where's the movie deal.
I've got a
and that's
prime.
something a lot of people don't have. They don't have that discipline. Stay with it.
I've got a prime example of that I just ran across yesterday. The very, very first, the first recognized full comic book out there by Eastern printing companies called Famous Funnies. Maxwell Gaines and another salesperson of his decided to do it and put it out on the stands and see if it would sell. That first issue lost $4,000. $4,000 back in 1934, I believe it was. That's hardcore money. But you know what? They kept going and they kept pounding. And I think it was by the 12th or the 20th issue, they were pulling down 30 grand in profit every issue consistently. And Famous Funnies ran to, I believe, 219. Just monthly. Boom, boom, boom. Always out there. If they had given up, if they had stopped and said, well, obviously that format ain't making it after the first issue and absorbed the $4 grand loss, where would comics be today?
Yep.
That's what I'm saying.
Exactly.
I mean,
There would have been something, but not what we see now, because that kickstart everything. That's still in Universal.
Yeah.
There's an actual area dedicated to it. I spend like an hour and a half in there at least every time looking at random things and taking pictures because I'm like, I'm a comic nerd, What are you going to say, JD?
well, I was going to say, it's like, because my YouTube channel is relatively young. I've only been doing it a few months, and I've started interviewing people and interacting with, the community and trying to get as many people in as I can. I'm interviewing like 3, 4, 5 people a week. Just about every night. I take a couple nights off. But I mean, yeah, it's slow. The growth is slow. You're going to get 1 or 2 people per person, and that's just how it's going to grow. I mean, maybe if I don't know, if I get Todd McFarlane on, maybe I'll have a quantum leap, but good luck getting him, right? But I mean, but the thing is that's the expectation. You grow naturally, but the thing is you're going to grow a community that's going to stick with you. You're not just going to grow like, if it balloons up 5,000 people overnight, you better be sure in about a month you're going to be back down to just a few hundred, because they're going to disappear. So it's better to go slow and steady, and that way you're building a strong foundation than trying to get a few thousand people.
Yeah.
Because I've heard of people buying fans or whatever. I was like, one, I wouldn't even know how to do it, and I would just think it's ridiculous because they're not going to be real. Why have them?
Yeah. Right.
Credit to Brian K. Morris and DeViL's. This goes for both you guys. DeViL's crew, which I guess I'm a part of now, and Brian K. Morris. You guys deliver numbers consistently, and you don't worry about Facebook down throttling you. I know both are affected by it, but the radio station is free of that. And I know, Brian K. Morris, you're working towards being on YouTube, so you won't be down throttled by Facebook, because that's a real thing. You have to understand. Sometimes you get popular. I've never seen an actual thing get free content that drives users, and they still kneecap it because they think they can force you to pay for it. It's amazing how corrupt Facebook can be at times with the way that they do their business plans. Oh, this guy's getting popular. Let's slow him down. And they do that. They really throttle you. So you buy ads. It's insane. But Randy and Varian, the numbers you guys are pulling on the radio. By the way, to the radio, thank you all for joining us on July 4th. The numbers you guys have been pulling have been amazing. 40,000 listeners across the globe. Yeah, and that's not counting an American audience. For those who are listening, you don't understand. America's not invited on the live casts.
Yeah, it gets pretty crazy when you look at the numbers and you have to worry about affording the bandwidth. There's that's what we call a happy problem.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've pressed 40 a couple times, 40,000 all around the world. It's just amazing. And the cool thing about that is I know they're out there because I've been hearing from them on Facebook. I've been getting all sorts of unusual cartoonists friending me up on Facebook. It's like, oh, that guy's stuff's awesome. Look at this, and it's great to see folks all over the world who appreciate sequential art. And it's amazing that that Indie Volt Radio has the numbers they have. Yeah,
Beautiful.
we,
It's a
we
beautiful
appreciate all of you listening, everybody.
and it shows that you're out there, and it shows that we have to learn to reach you, and that's really just what it is. Brian K. Morris, and to your point, JD, I could get just name a person. If Stan Lee were alive, I could get him on my show tomorrow if he were still alive. I could get that one show that gets me let's say 100,000 views on Facebook. The next day, you're right back to being where you were the day before, and I don't think a lot of people realize that. You'll get more, but like it takes that grind. 3 years of Randy and Varian showing up and even learning. We watched the earlier version of the show. It was completely different. I remember Randy was like this, looking down to the side. His mic was up here, and you had Varian. He looked like he was a hostage. He was like this. That's how he started the show. So
Well, you grow and learn, you know.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of doing it.
Yeah, my original shows were on a camera right here, recording a screen. That is how I started 5 years ago with a lot of my original things, with a tripod in front of a camera. Every so often I'd knock it over when I was trying to type or use a mouse. Heaven forbid I sneezed. There was no mute, so if my wife or my son were walking in the room, you just heard it. You just, you know what would happen. There was no cough button. You were just like, excuse me, I promise I'm not dying. Hold on. It was it. Now we can hide. We got nice little avatars. So the point I'm trying to make, guys, is don't give up. Just because it doesn't work in the first month, continue. But one of the things I want to talk about, and Randy, you've getting a lot of heat from this, I want to talk about our good friends at the comic book shops who are the owners. And I want to, first off, I want to ask, why aren't comic book shops having at least the shelf, if not an entire section of their wall, for crowdfunding? Every one of these shops that shows up, and you guys talk about it on your show when you get the messages. You guys had that guy who's a shop owner who literally wrote in, my wife makes $200K a year and I can't make any money at my comic book shop. Feel bad for me. But we were like, what? And he was like saying words. Look, we're not rated on this show. I don't have to worry about cursing, but I'm not going to say the shit he was saying. He was just being a real douchebag.
I think some of that though, because he sent us another response the following broadcast last Thursday. He asked us a very serious, very hardcore, and just an awesome question. So I honestly think he was playing around, calling us names, because he's seen other people call us names in the past, and a little bit of smarminess and you know, being picked on. It kind of adds to the fun, you know, of the show.
Yeah.
And I personally, I hope that's the way it is, that he doesn't think that we're actually what he called us. I'm pretty sure that he didn't mean it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I mean, comic book shops, though, they're not evolving. A lot.
No. And again, Rob, you're in a hurry. You have to remember that there's been a pandemic, so all of the retailers have been frozen the last 3 months. But not just that, but crowdfunding to this level, crowdfunding to the level of where you have 6 and 7 figure campaigns is new.
Yeah. No, I mean,
it's relatively new. They've had some in the past years ago, but there aren't a lot of crowdfunding programs that are offering retail packages.
Oh, that's what I meant to say was they are not typically ones to evolve. They are very slow to change comic book shops.
And again, that's the conditioning that this industry has been under for the last 3 decades. You get told over and over again, this is your market, this is your demographic, this is the size of your comic, this is what this has to look like, this is what that has to look like. I mean, if you get, I'm sure if you get Cliff Biggers on here, who does Comic Shop News, he will tell you he had some hardcore resistance from Diamond getting Comic Shop News out to the retailers because it didn't look like a comic book to them. Mm-hmm. You know, we were told a number of times back when I was doing Arrow in the early 2000s, we wanted to do a promotional free comic, even free comic book day. You have to hit a certain amount of hurdles and criteria before Diamond looks at you to decide that, okay, we're going to distribute your book. Then they make them pay Diamond to do it. So it's not a free expense. It's a free expense from Diamond to the retailer, from the retailer to the consumer. But the publisher still has to print the book, and probably, though I'm not sure if Diamond's made a policy change in the last 10 years, they have to pay Diamond in order to for them to distribute the book.
JD?
Now, there's a couple things with that with the retailers. There's an 80-20 rule, right? 20%, or 80% of your product is going to be sold through 20% of your stores. Those 20% of those stores you got to guarantee are the most. They're going to be the biggest, strongest, and most progressive stores. Those stores, typically, when you walk into them, they have indie sections. Okay, you walk into those shops, and they welcome indies. They want indies because they want that extra revenue. You understand? So they're the ones that are really striving for it. So in fact, we have to try to strive to get to those guys, to get to those stores. Now, the other 80%, what are they selling? They're primarily selling pops. They're selling, anything else. Comics might be a couple of racks, and that's about it. When I was growing up, and I'm pretty sure Randy can attest to this, I don't know if some of you, maybe Brian, way back in the day, you'd walk into a comic book shop, and you know what was in there? Comic books. That's it. You wouldn't see anything else. There were no posters, no T-shirts. There was nothing. You couldn't get. There was no merch. You're lucky if you saw a button. You just saw racks and racks and long boxes. That's it. And I mean, it was incredible. I loved it.
I'm from back in the day when we had these things, and for the radio audience and the kids listening, we had something called a magazine store. Believe it or not, the only thing that they did was sell magazines, cigarettes, and a little bit of pop in the back. And lotto tickets. That was it. That's all it did.
It's just a slight evolvement from the newsstand.
Yeah.
The guy stands there in that wooden box in the corner,
and you still
on the street corner, selling every kind of magazine and newspaper he can get his hands on.
And those are still in New York. I still get comics in there when I'm in New York. Sometimes I'll run by it. They still carry comics. Yeah. It's amazing. Comic book shops, I actually think, wound up hurting, not because they were comic book shops, but because what Diamond does next. And I know Randy says this a lot, but I do know Brian wanted to say something about that before we shit on Diamond a little bit. Brian, what were you saying?
Well, no. Before we shit on Diamond, I think I'd like to shit on some of the comic dealers now. We have to be fair. The problem is, and I know this from the days I used to work in comic book retail, is a lot of stores do not attempt to grow their audience. They don't attempt to try to bring in new people to the store. You go to probably 10 different comic shops anywhere and ask them what their advertising budget is, and they will probably look at you like you should have subtitles to explain yourself. And it's been that way since the shop started in the 70s. I worked at one of the few in Champaign, Illinois that actually took out ads. Most of the time the thought was, at least up until the mid-90s, was you put some comics in on a rack, you open your door, and the money will fly in. And a lot of people, unfortunately, found out that wasn't true. So I get a little angry at retailers because they could be doing so much more. And during this pandemic, I saw some dealers, some comic shops that stepped up and said, hey, listen, we're not getting new products, so let's get some of this independent stuff in here. Let's clean out our basement of all that stuff we've been holding on to for 400 years. We can't let them in the door. Tell you what, let's go on Facebook Live and we'll work out like some sort of system where we can mail it to them. It forced a lot of them to work a lot harder. But I think in the long run, it's going to help those retailers. So I think there's a certain amount of Darwinism that I think is going on with comic shops that, frankly, I welcome, along with some comic publishers and maybe some other parties that will go unnamed. But I think we're about to attack them next.
Well, before we get to that, I just want to say Ralph Griffin says it's all about reliability, integrity, and quality, and then visibility going forward from here. He's absolutely right. That's Terraform's whole thing, is changing the landscapes by putting out quality books that you can count on. I will admit independent creators have sometimes been sloppy to rush to market. That is absolutely true. That we've seen the effects of that, and we've also seen them now beginning to leave. I think in 2021, you will see a lot less independent creators because we're already seeing it. There are literally, Kickstarter was saying there's a decline of almost 50% of crowdfunding. Was the rumor going around, but they've admitted there's a big drop. Go ahead, Randy.
That's Kickstarter's numbers only.
Yes, Indiegogo seems to actually be on the uptick, to be fair, to be clear. In comics, Indiegogo now officially begun to get, and Varian wants to try to take a look at what's going on there. There might be a seismic shift.
I think you're seeing a natural evolution is what's happening. And another thing I wanted to point out when it comes to the retailers, and again, you have to go back to the start of everything. The majority of these retailers, quite frankly, were comic fans that just wanted to get to know that they were going to be able to get their books, who decided that maybe I can sell to some of my buddies. A lot of these comic shops, and some of them that have been around for 30, 40 years, started out by a guy who just loves comics. He's got no business sense, never took a class in business education, decided he wanted to sell funny books. So, and like Diamond is, and I know we said we were going to shit on them, but I have to tell you, Diamond, I think, is largely responsible for that attitude and for them not going after any new clients, because they literally took their client base from 9,000 down to what it is today, which is estimated to be 1,200. That's a huge drop down when comics are evolving and moving up, especially in visibility. There's no reason why Diamond should not be looking at that 9,000 number now. There's no reason except for Diamond.
Yeah, but I think one of the issues, I'm sorry, Rob, but one of the issues with retailers and them coming in as fans into retail without going through business is that they are usually Marvel and DC fans. Mm-hmm. And those are usually the only things they're looking at. Those are the only things they care about. You understand? And they don't realize that 30% of the market is indie comics. And, 30%.
Again, sorry to break in, JD. Again, that's what they've been programmed to do. You see, all of the bigger companies, the exclusive companies, are in the front. And of the previews book, Diamond says those are the ones you need to pay attention to. Gary Reed and I had a big discussion about comic company names, alternative comic company names. And he pointed out to me, because he had extensive retailing experience, you go through that front section of previews and you order all the big guys and you get to that green section and you only have so much left in your budget. You start at the A's and you usually run out before you get past the C's. So if you start a new company, you want to be a company with a name that starts with an A, B, or C, or you're never going to get bought. And that came from his experience.
And I do want to point out that was it Jeppy, the vice president, left because he was hung out to dry in Diamond? That's going to be a hard thing, because we've all heard the rumors that Jeppy leaves. And
I don't think it was Jeppy. Jeppy's the one that's running it, isn't it?
Yeah, Jeppy took the place of the guy who left, who was the president.
Shanus, wasn't it Shanus?
Yeah,
Shanus was the number 2 guy. Yeah,
he quit because Jeppy comes back and kind of blames him for everything. And it was Jeppy cutting corners. The minute Jeppy left, he suddenly said, "You have less to work with now." Because ever since he stepped down, all it was, do what you do. Exactly what Randy said. Like, just come on, just get the Marvel and DC books out.
To be fair, though, those guys just towed the line. Yeah, and it was a line that Jeppy was well entreated in before he left.
Yeah. And I mean, you get Diamond, who comes out and goes, "Hey, everybody, we're going to be pushing this book. It's going to be outstanding. Goes to all comic book shops. You all have to order 500 copies of New Warriors. It's going to be the best thing ever." Meanwhile, you go to the internet and people are like, "I hate you. Do not make this book. I will buy it, burn it, and throw it in the store to burn the other copies." That's how much you had Diamond, because I heard comic book owners saying, no, they kept telling us to order this book. Diamond has just a deal with the upper 2 to push certain titles, whether it's good or not. And that's, Randy said it 100 times in Indie Vault, they're fucking the whole system up by doing that. You have to let the market decide. And the market isn't the speculators. It's the fans, and we've forgotten that. We've let too many people speculate for too long in telling us what the good books are, and everyone's gone home. What's up, JD?
All right, well, I think the number of issues is Marvel, right? Marvel, is a big, beautiful company that has done a lot of garbage to this industry, because along with all the multiple covers it produces, along with all the useless titles it produces, because it since the early 90s, ever since Image came around, their main goal is to fill up those racks, get as many books on those racks, push out anyone else. They don't care who it is, but they primarily are aiming for, obviously, DC, but that's not really their concern. Their concern is Image. And, companies like that, and they just want to get them out. And the rest of us, we're just, we're just suffering, from that particular war that's going on. And that's one of the things that I personally despise about Marvel, is just like one of these things that they're put out this stuff, and they don't even care. And that's the problem. The editorial, they're not editorial. They make friends with these people. They're not supposed to be your friends. You're editorial. You're supposed to beat them up until they do a proper product, and that's what you're supposed to be there for.
I will say this though, and to be fair to Marvel, it's easy for us to take shots at them from this position, and we all want better for Marvel because we're all fans. And there is definitely a feeling that they don't listen to fans anymore. I'm with you, JD. But Donnie Cates has done some great stuff. I just want to point out there's some silver lining in there.
No, there's some good books coming out. I mean, I like the stuff Jason Aaron has done. I like some, I'm going to pick up the Donnie Cates Thor run. There's stuff from there that I pick up. But, there's, I mean, that's what?
Hit or miss.
3%?
Yeah, it's definitely hit or miss. I know Randy hates Marvel now. With a passion.
Oh yeah, I hate them. Yeah, they're terrible. No, I don't hate Marvel. I hate a lot of the people that are up there. I think it's unnecessary, and some people don't have the skills to warrant their positions in just about every position that's up there. But that's just again, it's my opinion. I wish I could be in C.B. Cebulski's shoes for about, it'd probably take about 2 years to flush everybody out.
Yeah, but Randy, you'd make unemployment go through the roof in comics.
Say what?
You'd make unemployment go through the roof in comics.
It already is.
You'd fire like everybody. Like I could just see Randy.
I wouldn't fire everybody, but
Randy'd be like the weakest link. Give me your pitch. Nope, you are the weakest link. Get out.
Yeah. Pretty much. I'd put an hourglass on the table and have somebody tell me a story. If they don't know how to tell a story, why are they working?
Brian, what do you think? Marvel, you're still reading comics. Is Marvel taking giant shit in the bed of creativity?
I have to say that I used to buy like every Marvel comic that came out once upon a time, but you guys have mentioned them trying to push other titles off the racks. That's been their philosophy since the 40s. Martin Goodman used to like if DC sold a war comic, Martin Goodman would put out eight comics, and some of them were good, granted, but it's been that way all along. Like I keep saying, but I have my tongue in my cheek when I say it, is that nothing succeeds like excess. I do, but getting back to your question, Rob, that no, I don't read most Marvel comics now. I read a few of them in trade paperback, from the library. But as far as picking them up, unless Roy Thomas is writing something from my era, I generally don't pick it up on the stands. And DC, I'm down to probably less than half a dozen titles. I'm buying more independent comics. I'm doing more of the Kickstarter, which personally, for the last 2 years, I've been thinking if anybody's going to supplant Diamond, that's where it's going to happen. Indiegogo and Kickstarter, because one problem I see, and it has been mentioned, that the creative, the editorial teams are kind of out of touch with the readership. That if anything, they're just singing to the choir. They're preaching to the choir, like on their message boards and all the PR stuff they do. But in Kickstarter, when I ran a campaign 2 years ago, and what amazed me was suddenly I've got one-on-one contact with the people that directly support me. And that's I also publish books. I don't get that from Amazon. If somebody buys a book, I don't know who did it unless they tell me. I don't have their email address for my mailing list. But with Kickstarter, I've got one-on-one contact with them. And if I want to ask them, well, where should I go next? I could just poll them directly and have them tell me. So I'm thinking, that is one thing that a lot of creators need to be mindful of, is that Kickstarter is more than just a way to make money. It is the way to build that relationship with your readership, the way that Stan Lee did back in the day.
And Indiegogo. And
Indiegogo, yeah, same thing, yeah.
And please do not use GoFundMe to Kickstarter a comic book. We'll laugh at you and not pay attention to you. We will not take you serious. We will mock you repeatedly if you use GoFundMe.
GoFundMe is for charities.
Yeah, stop.
Yeah.
Stop. Just.
Interesting thing about comic history, though, is Goodman was always reined in as far as Marvel goes, because they were only allowed so many spaces on that spiral rack.
Right. That's true.
That's why
That's
you got
true.
Tales from Suspense and Tales to Astonish, where they had half a Iron Man, half a Captain America story, because they had all these ideas that they wanted to get out, and they did not have the space. So a lot of those early Marvels even were bi-monthly, because they didn't have the space. But yeah, it was a very much a I don't want to say incestuous business, but it was very much a copycat business. If War was selling a war, the other guy started a war title. Westerns were selling, the other guy started a couple Western titles. And that's really, seriously, that's where Fantastic Four came from. And the start of Marvel is that they figured out DC was selling superheroes and making money, so that's what they wanted to do. So that's how the whole Marvel universe started.
And I also just want to quickly address before we move on to Ralph's comment. We really don't know how much money independent comics are making. Kickstarter and Indiegogo put together would take out Marvel to be the #1 publisher right now. I want people to understand that.
I'd be curious to see those numbers to be sure.
I would argue only because we don't know what Marvel and DC are doing overseas. Because we don't know what type of revenue they're generating, and I'm pretty sure it's significant, which is why they don't share it with the creators.
Possible. We don't know, because this isn't an open field. We're all making guesses. The closest thing we can do is Kickstarter and Indiegogo. Go look.
We will never have a full grasp of the figures of sequential art because it's already so diverse. We'll never know what Scholastic puts out because Scholastic won't admit it. They keep saying they're a third of the market, but I still have yet to see it. You know, it's just like you saying that Kickstarter and Indiegogo would outdo Marvel and DC. They definitely do in paying off their creative teams. But are they, when it comes to sheer profit, because of their overhead and all of the problems, expenses that they have to go through? It'd be real interesting to see the one-on-one comparisons, though.
I think money-wise, but then they could argue, well, if you're going to do our Kickstarters, we sell T-shirts, they should be able to add their T-shirts. They add their T-shirts, we lose. So it's always going to be a bickering thing. And I do want to get, that'll be our next topic, actually. But before we get there,
and the next thing is the perception. There's the perception of what Marvel and DC are pulling down, and what Image and Dark Horse are pulling down, and what the independents are pulling down. Those numbers are getting closer together every month because they are dropping and the independent products are rising, and it's a quick rise. And within the next 6 months, maybe 2 years, you're going to see a big shift.
And I do
unless something's done.
Yeah, and I do want to bring this up before we switch gears. It's all about no, sorry, I got the wrong one, Ralph. I think you need more entry points for all ages unless you are targeting a certain age group. Oh my God, have the comic books dropped the ball on inviting young readers? I think that's the biggest mistake coming out of DC and Marvel right now. They're not inviting readers. They're targeting a collector's market. What do you guys think about that?
I'll let somebody else go first. I got a whole soapbox for that one.
All right. Well, for what I see and from my perspective, is that Marvel and DC should both have lines for children. DC had one in the past. Marvel had Star Comics for a while.
Multiple times, yeah.
Exactly. Why not continue those lines? And not just that, make those lines cheaper. Print them on the cheapest paper you can print them on. Release those books for $1.50. And, you know, those are the things that should have been in Toys R Us. Those are the things that should be in Barnes & Nobles. Those are the things that should be in various places like that. You know, you put them in those, you put in Walmart, you put all that stuff. Make them cheap. Make them disposable. Those are the things that you want to give to kids so that their parents will like take them and they'll be like, oh, it's only $1. All right, boom. Just give it to the kid. They can, you know, eat an ice cream and enjoy a comic.
I'm sorry, JD, but they did that accidentally. That's why we have Ollie's.
There you go.
Oh, my God. Cheap, disposable,
right?
$2.99 for a $15 trade paperback. Boom. But yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
No,
I'm sorry to cut in.
No, it's fine. No, I was done. That was my rant.
So do I need to warm up the audience again for you, Randy, or
warm them up?
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah,
I don't mean to get on a soapbox, but we're talking about something I love. So
Oh, no. In fact, let me know if I still in any corner of your soapbox, because I honestly, I agree completely. We don't really have any entry-level comics for kids. I think part of the problem is we've relied on comic shops to sell them. Because when I was running my comic, or when I was managing a comic shop back when, I had to fight with my owner. I'd like to put in some Archies. I want to get these Star comics in here, and he's like, "Oh no, we've got to go after the big money from the adults." It's like, no, these adults are having kids now. We need entry level material for them. And it's like Randy will remember, it's the Impact line from DC. Mm-hmm. From the 90s. It was an attempt to redo the Archie characters, but for a new audience, and that was intended to be a gateway comic for new readers. So what did they do? Did they advertise in, say, the Scholastic Book Club? No. Did they advertise in magazines? No. No, they did it in the trade magazines of the day, the Comics Journal, the Comics Reader. They were basically telling the older audience, hey, we've got these comics for kids. And everyone's like, that's nice, big deal. And even now, I remember Marvel had the Marvel Adventure line, which were pretty good comics, actually. But now they're licensing that out to IDW. DC had some really good younger people titles, but the only one I can think of right now that's running is Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? And, I would love to see like a younger, they had Superman Adventures for a while, or stuff based on the animated series, the Batman animated series. And I would love to see something like that for a younger audience, not dumbed down, mind you, but and not reliant on a cartoon that's running on the air. So the minute that goes off the air, the comic vanishes too. I would like to see more comics. I learned to read from comics. Back in my day, everyone read comics of one sort or another, and even Archie now. It's hard to find classic Archie, because a lot of it is that older stuff. And I feel you, Randy. I feel it coming on. So I think it's incumbent, and it goes back to what I said about the retailers. They're not looking at growing the market. They're just looking at trying to pull every dollar from the market that's existing now, which is why we went from 9,000 shops in the mid 90s to barely over 1,200, if that, right now. So, okay, Randy, I've warmed him up. It's up to you, buddy.
I agree with you 100%. I'm going to try not to cover the same thing that you just got done saying. You walk into a Barnes and Nobles today and you go back to their graphic novel section. What do you see? You see an entire wall of manga. Boom. All these manga books. Marvel and DC over the last 20, 30 years literally just ignored, passed up, went around entire generations of female readers, of people that didn't want to read superhero books, of a number of people, and they love comics so badly. These people are so hungry to read sequential art, they're willing to read books back to front to read comics. What's wrong with this picture? Marvel and DC should be jumping out there right now, and they've tried a couple times and stumbled a couple times in the past. That they're literally, it's like the marketing people, all the creativity starts right before it gets to editorial. And everything from editorial through the executive are people that are just interested in moving widgets, and instead of comics or instead of art. And it just gets very aggravating. Every time I walk into a Barnes & Noble, it's like there's an entire example of generations lost that was intentionally done from Marvel and DC, and the kids are so desperate for comic entertainment, they're willing to get dyslexic and read back to front in order to be entertained. It's crazy.
Yeah. And Randy, not to jump in real quick, you want to see verification of that, Randy? Don't just rely on your Barnes & Noble. Go to your local library.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
You're going to see like a huge section just for the manga stuff, and like manga, shelf after shelf of manga, and maybe if you're lucky, DC Marvel, maybe an image or two. So it's not proportionate, but it is. Globally though, it is proportionate to the global market, where something like a Naruto can probably sell more comics than all of any one company does in 1 week at an American comic shop. I'm sorry, Rob. Go ahead.
Wait a second. There's one last thing, and those manga are in black and white.
Yeah.
They're black and white books printed on newsprint, printed on the cheapest paper you can print on.
And thick.
And thick.
Thick, big books. Big, thick books. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
A few points to what said. First off, we're forgetting the bigger part. Marvel and DC gave up on the kids because it wasn't in newspaper shops anymore, because there were no newspaper shops anymore. A lot of kids got into it on their own. They didn't have their parents taking them. Because when we were kids, we went to the store on our own. The kids nowadays don't go to the stores on their own. So Marvel and DC, instead of putting the energy into learning how to reach that market through new ways, gave up on it, like Randy said. Now they're trying with games.
But again, that's programming that goes back to the 70s in the direct market.
Oh yeah, no, you're right. So that they dropped the ball. They let go of it, and the magazine shops, by the way, they just went with Diamond. They caused their own problems. They didn't evolve. Second thing, and then I have someone else to bring in. Second thing I want to say is to JD. JD, I'll be honest, and I got comics when I was a child. I treasured my comics. They weren't throwaway. I kept them in good condition. I still own them in the other room right now. I took better care of my comics because I could pick up that comic and go back and look at all the lines again, look at all the way that it was drawn, look at the different aspects of the comic. There was always something new I could go back as I got older, and I suddenly noticed that I didn't notice when I read it when I was just a year younger. There were certain things that were changing. And the person I want to bring in is Chuck. Chuck, Happy Canada Day too, I guess. Canada Day just called Canada. What was it? Canada Celebration Day?
I live here, and my family's American, so we still celebrate. We did like a joint North America Day thing, so it all came down. We had s'mores and hot dogs and fire and all that crap.
All right, so real quick, I'm Randy. You never told anyone who you were either.
For what?
Did you ever tell anyone who you were on the thing?
No, you just brought me in and we started talking. So.
Yeah, so Chuck introduced yourself and then Randy introduced yourself. So we didn't do the intro. Like you said, we just kind of ground running.
What's up, gang? I'm Chuck Tino. I'm a freelance writer and editor. I've worked on all sorts of great stuff. My own books are Belial, Welcome to the Void, and I also have a terrific audio drama known as Essence House, and I've edited a crap ton more books than I can ever imagine, including the award-winning, absolutely amazing children's book or all ages book, Cat Dad and Supermom.
Oh, and hey, I'm Randy Zimmerman. I've been doing alternative and independent comics for decades. I started with Arrow Comics back in, I hate to even admit it, back in the mid-'80s. And I've worked for a lot of different independent comic companies. Right now, I'm an award-winning commercial and graphic artist whose main specialty is sequential art and advertising. I also do the Zim Geek channel here on YouTube, ZIMMGEEK, where I talk about comics and stuff and teach cartooning. So.
All right, so
and I'm on DeViL's.
Okay, we're going to jump into the next thing. Good questions, Ralph. Keep the comments coming. Don't mind breaking the list I have to deal with big comics, by the way, so keep coming. Thank you to the radio station that's listening to us. We don't know the number, how many you are, but we know you're all amazing. I don't need to know the number to know you're all amazing. Thank you for tuning in. We're going to talk about the crab bucket, as Randy always calls it. The worst thing that happening in the comics right now are people trying to tear other people down. We saw this when one of our own, Ethan Van Sciver, and I think I'm saying that right. I always get it wrong. It's not a disrespectful thing. It's just my dyslexia, but I think I finally got it. Broke the $1 million barrier for crowdfunding. It was a moment to celebrate, and we had people show up to shit on the moment. And it was like, what the fuck? Why can't we just have a win? Why does everything have to be political? How damaging do you think is, especially I was talking to Luke the other day, it seems like the creators coming in now have this ego like they deserve to be here. They're reinventing comics and they're legends. The first day they get here, they are the Stan Lees of this generation and they ain't dropped a book yet. Or they dropped one book and made $10,000 like that matters. I'm not trying to belittle $10,000, but in the grand scheme of things in comics, 10 grand ain't shit. I'm sorry, it's not.
Sounds like somebody's having a big 4th of July celebration out there.
I think it's Brian.
I'm broadcasting from Beirut.
Okay.
No, it's enjoyment of America. But could you mute? I was going to ask you, could you mute until you're talking? Thank you, Brian. But what do you guys think? Is the crab bucket becoming worse now? To me, I'm seeing it being a lot worse. And I'm not going to go into the why. I'm just going to talk about how disgusting it is that I see it. People are literally actively trying to end each other's careers over nothing. Over lies, over innuendos, over you didn't vote for my guy, or you said something, you didn't fall in line. Don't they? Is this like one of the bigger problems we have to now overcome? Is this part of our evolve or die? Telling people to just shut the fuck up and write a comic and let the fans be the judge? Because I think that's what it should be. Who wants to go first? Or we'll go Chuck, since you're the last one in. Last one in first.
You know, it's funny. We have social media, so now in a way that was never possible before, these people go beyond, they transcend their stories. And so that's kind of the issue, is that like even with like someone like Ethan Van Sciver, no matter what side of the fence you are on him, he is a very divisive person. You know, whereas he has a lot of shit to say and he's kind of in your face about it, and either you're cool with it or you're not. And there's not a lot of happy medium there. And so that can be a really big issue, you know, and let's be honest, sometimes in the entertainment business, it really pays to not have an opinion. And I'm not saying that's good, but it is what it is. It's part of what the fuck's going on. And sometimes you just gotta decide how you're gonna play the game and be happy with it.
We'll go with Brian in Beirut.
Yeah, the noise should abate in about 4 or 5 hours from now, so no worries. No, I agree, and I think the problem is we've got too many people who think that this is a zero-sum game. That there's only so much money, so much success, so many hookers and blow that can go to the comic creator. So I hear. And the thing is, though, there isn't. What we have to do is, like I keep saying, we got to grow that market. We've got to grow that pie. And unfortunately, you've got a whole bunch of people that can't stand the success of others. But the thing is, I think somebody like an Ethan Van Sciver, he succeeds. And you know what that tells me as a creator? I could do it too if I put in the same hard work, if I built my social platform to a similar strength, if I had the same kind of influence and sense of camaraderie with my readership that Ethan has developed. Again, Ethan's been in this since the early 90s. He didn't just, pop in on Kicks, on Indiegogo 2 weeks ago and got 7 figures. He worked to build it. And again, this goes back to my earlier point about people not wanting to put in the time or the discipline to do it. So when somebody like Ethan, who I'm not in lockstep with philosophically completely, just the same, I'm glad to see him succeed. Just as I am, like the New 52. I wasn't totally on board with that, but when I'm seeing comics for the first time in years and years and years, suddenly selling 7 figures, that gets me excited. That makes me think that maybe this, can expand beyond just the investors market and maybe get some actual readers into it. So, I think it's, congratulations, Ethan. And to everyone who who wants to cancel somebody because you don't agree with them, I say we just keep doing what we're doing and succeed, if only just to piss them off, because it's kind of fun to watch.
We're going to go over to Randy and let JD close this out. But I want to say there hasn't been a cocaine budget in comics since the 90s. Randy?
Speak for your own budget.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the prime example that goes against what you just said, Rob.
The cocaine budget?
Okay, yeah.
Well, it's not the budget. I'm not saying they don't do drugs. I'm just saying they're buying them on their own.
social media isn't very social is the problem. And part of fandom has always been discussing the pros and cons of each individual's work. The problem is now is with social media, especially with Twitter, you can be a real a-hole and not have to back up what you're saying. You can just pop out, make a nasty statement, and run. And that's wrong. And the industry, just like we keep saying, has to grow up and mature to the point of understanding the business, of respecting the industry and the people in it enough to, some opinions desperately need to be kept to yourself. You know, and that's just, it goes beyond politeness to professional attitude. You know, you want to be a professional in this business, you want to make a living in this business, you're going to have to learn to get along with everybody because it's not that big of a business. So the cool thing, finally, I want to say about Ethan that few people are talking about or want to wrap their head around is, and with crowdfunding, especially in general, especially with some of these established creators like Billy Tucci, Dan Fraga, and that are coming in and doing their own crowdfunding campaigns and drawing attention to all of the independent and alternative campaigns that are out there. The cool thing about that is that they are bringing in people, collectors, certainly, but most importantly, with $25 books, you're bringing in older money, older established money from longtime comic book readers that are so disenfranchised with what's going on in the mainstream that they walked, and now they're coming back. And I think part of those campaigns, the success especially of some of the older, especially like Dan Fraga or Artie Bear and all that, these people are being recognized. Oh, they used to do that property for Image back in the 90s. I need to get that book. I think you're seeing more of that than somebody who normally walks into a comic retail shop suddenly deciding to buy crowdfunding. So the market, through crowdfunding and through these workhorses deciding to do their own stuff, they're literally opening up the market again and welcoming back a lot of old money that has been out of this market for years. And that's something that needs to be appreciated.
JD, take us out of this one and we'll bring up another topic.
All right. Well, I think one of the issues with, as far as like people just shitting on one another, is people have to realize, especially new creators, someone else's success does not mean you're going to fail. You understand? So, you know, someone else can succeed. You can succeed just alongside with them. And, you know, this is a philosophy that, you know, if it's what Brian said, if he can do it, I can do it. If another man can do it, I can achieve it as well. You understand? You just have to work towards it. You have to work hard towards it. And you have to try to develop a critical eye towards your work. Because there are a lot of people that come in this industry and they say, oh, I got my first issue. And of course, you see that first issue, you never see anything else from them. Because they fail and they're like, oh, you know, I guess this is it for me. I got to go become a barista or something else.
But did they fail, JD? Or did they just not try? We all know issue one is not really trying, right?
Well, the thing is like anything else. We know how hard it is to create a comic book. Every one of us knows how difficult it is. You understand? So they tried. I would never take that away from them. I feel they tried. But did they try hard enough? That's the actual, you know, add-on to that. Did they try hard enough? You know, did they push it hard enough? The thing is more a thing of quality than, you know, anything else. Because a lot of these number ones from these new creators, they haven't been mentored enough to be shown and said, listen, maybe you need to work on your layout and design. Maybe you need to work on your dialogue. Maybe you need to work on your scripting, so on and so forth, to make your work a little bit tighter, a little bit stronger. But, you know, these are things that are going to happen. A lot of these people are young, so they're going to learn. Or they won't. Oh, I think we lost.
Everybody's quiet. I can jump in.
There you go. Jump in, Randy. We lost the indie devil.
One thing I always like to say is comics. When you decide to do comics, you decide to do comics. That first book, once you have it in your hands, that ink gets right into your blood, and that's when you decide, when you have that first book in your hand, if you're going to do this for the rest of your life, if you're going to bother to do the work, learn the trade, or if you're going to be that barista. You can be a very successul barista, you know, but if you're here in comics to get that next Netflix deal, please, 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 please go somewhere else.
Go be a barista.
Just go.
Go
Just
be a
go.
barista. Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
no, go to Netflix. Like if that's
Go to
if
Netflix.
that's what if you want to be, I want to make a movie, then go make a fucking movie. Like don't waste our time. Don't make comics that really are not comics because they're just a bunch of pictures.
Right.
Instead, learn the craft and care, or go off and make a movie. Let's be honest. There's lots of great movies that have been made for really low budgets, and I mean, like think of like Blair Witch and Clerks and stuff like that have gone on to be huge. And guys, comics aren't cheap. Like a comic, if you're a writer and you don't have your whole team, you're talking $5K easy, going into everything. So go make a fucking movie.
Yep. I think when I have to keep this rolling, we lost Rob.
No. For some reason, we got a YouTube notice that somehow this is violating the terms of services for YouTube. I'm like,
I am too hot for TV. That's the issue.
Yes, so like talking about the truth, we got Diamond trying to take us off air on YouTube on my channel. I don't know. We're still live, so we're still gonna keep going
On your channel?
on my particular channel. I don't know about DeViL's yet. Someone probably reported it to be a jerk, and they did
Somebody trolling.
Yeah, so I'm already a part of the appeal, and I'm like, please tell me how we're talking about the future of the comic book industry. We haven't even said anything that fucked up yet. I mean, I can. You want me to push it on YouTube? I can.
Yeah, nothing I can think of.
I'll race you to that finish line.
But
you mentioned EVS.
Oh, that's it right there. No,
Is that what it is? And if you don't appreciate what he's doing, yeah, that could be.
Yeah,
He's got a lot of weirdos out there that'll do crap like that.
I celebrated he made $1 million. That's right. He did. Get over it. You can't take his money. I know you think you can report him and call him all these names. You're not going to stop him. He's just going to be back with issue 3 in 6 months.
Well, they can't interrupt the audience. It's on DeViL radio, so it's all
Thank
good.
you all for tuning in. And, if YouTube, you got a problem, YouTube, go ahead. Keep your problem coming. We're not slowing down, homie. We're going to keep this show going. So we're going to go to audience questions because we've done everything. Let's see. Awesome panel by Sarah. FYI, she found out that a brick and mortar comic in Charleston, Illinois is open. And this is from Ralph Griffin. I've noticed many of the big 2 writers are not fans or even know the older material. That's not necessarily true. There are a lot of them in Marvel. In Marvel, yes. DC does have a lot of fans.
All over. It's all over.
But I mean, you have to be a fan to be a comic book. There should be a test. Like you have an IQ test of comics. You have to know a certain amount to get a job in comics. If you don't, you're gone.
No.
So
that's not how that works anymore, Rob. That's not how that works.
They have to install that. That has to be a change.
Oh yeah. Yep. I'll tell you this. Back in 2003, I made a pitch to a Marvel editor at San Diego. The guy looked at my submission and he looked me straight in the eye and said, "We own this character." An editor. That's when that was it for me. I've never pitched to Marvel since.
Right. And the fans have no sense of history either, or most of them don't anymore. I've told several times on my shows how I got in an argument with a cash.
Brian. Chuck was trying to talk.
Muted.
No, dude, it's good. He can move on.
I apologize, Chuck. I apologize.
We're still friends. You keep going. You made your point. No, go ahead.
Well, it was very brief. I was going to say that I got in an argument with the cashier one day because he did not like the Superman books from a couple of years ago, and he wishes that they would just make Superman the way he was when John Byrne created him.
I remember you saying that.
Yeah. So I apologize again, Chuck. I just didn't hear it. I apologize.
No. What, Brian? It's going to take a lot more than that for me to not love you anymore. No, you know what?
It's just you and me.
Yeah, let's do how the after show goes, buddy. No, but you know what? Like I've met creators, and I remember, I will not mention names. It's not okay, but I remember being on a panel, and we were talking about comics, and somebody said, like, what are some of your favorite comics out right now? And everyone's mentioning their comic, and this one person says, yeah, I don't really read comics. I'm not interested in them. And I was like, what? the fuck are you kidding me right now? And he's like, yeah, it's not my thing. I love movies. Why don't I tell you about my favorite movies? And I was like, what the hell are you even doing in here? Like, because you have a talent that like you can draw or whatever, so you're gonna do comics. You know that you could do stills for movies, right? And just like kind of leave the rest of us to enjoy our thing. But it really bothers me. Like, if you don't love the medium, what the fuck are you doing here?
Yeah, storyboarding pays a lot better than comics, especially in the mainstream cogs. Yeah, it does. Rob, are you there? No?
Yeah. I think we lost it.
We've got dead air again. Hey.
It's the YouTubers. Oh, he's trying to say something. What does it say up there? Center.
No, silver. Silver dash dash dash. You guys can figure out the rest because I was on that panel, and I'm going to give you a little bit of spice here. Yeah,
spice away. I'm not adding anything to it.
That was upsetting to see someone say on a show. It was my panel directly in my house. Not to say, you know what, I'm not really reading anything right now. I remember as a kid I liked the cartoons or stuff. I'm trying to play it off, but no, I don't like comics. And you're here to sell comics? That's like watching a football player going, I'd much rather be a plumber. I'm just good at this shit.
Right?
Throw some footballs.
It's very frustrating. Yeah, and that silver statement, I'm sorry, Rob, but I can't back that.
Yeah.
I remember an interview with Salma Almanat when they asked her what her relationship with comics are. She goes, well, I remember watching the X-Men cartoon. That's as far as it goes.
Oh, wow, that's sad.
It's like, why are you here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know? And again, it's not about, this isn't about gatekeeping or anything. It's just, why are you here if you don't care about this stuff? Why are you here? Like, so often I see a lot of these new guys, what are you going to do when your thing becomes a movie? Whoa, one step at a time. Release issue 1, dude. Like, give a crap about the comics you're making. Because I'll tell you, I've seen there's very few one-issue books that have been made into movies and TV shows. So maybe, like, chill your roll a little bit and try to finish some stuff and enjoy what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because if you're already looking what you perceive as ahead, go there. Because movies are not ahead of comics. TV is not ahead of comics. They're separate things. So go do that.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that I've seen is, like, you know, you hear some of these interviews, some of these other creators who are new to the industry, and you ask, and they've been asked the question, oh, what type of comics, you know, you liked? And it was like, well, I read Garfield as a kid, or Doonesbury, and you're just like, what? Why? What are you doing here? You know? So yeah, I understand exactly. I mean, what, you know, it's galling, you know, that they would come into something, not know anything about it, and think that they can work on these characters that have all this legacy and all this history, and know nothing about, you know, the subject matter or what it is or the history. So,
well, it's about motivation. Why? Well, I mean, if you don't care about the medium, why are you in it?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like the barista thing. If you don't drink coffee, why are you making it?
Right.
Then it's just the job.
I have a picture of someone, I wouldn't even call them prominent in the industry, who has a backdrop behind their convention table where they proudly proclaim themselves as destroyer of worlds and children's early children's dreams, something like that, where they freely admit that that's why they're there. They're there to wreck the industry. I'm not lying. I got photographic proof.
All right, but go deeper into that. Well, what do you think that we have to do, honestly, to change it? Should there be, like, sort of an entrance exam to know that we're these people dealing with comics or know what they're talking about?
If that was the case, Varian wouldn't be here. No, I'm just kidding.
Does he know who Wally Wood is?
Yeah, exactly. That was one of his first questions to me, where I'm like, how young are you? Holy crap. Do you even know who Russ Manning is? Who? Anyway, yeah. No, there can't be a test, but there has to be a love.
Right.
You know, that's the whole key. There has to be love there. And you have to love being here, or you know, you can't be here to be to make $1 million. You can't be here to be rich.
Well,
you know.
And I feel like it's kind of self-policing. It's always sort of been that way. So, like, you know, with the person that I mentioned, Rob and I immediately were like, cool, well, we're not going to be supporting what you do. And it's just, it's a fact. and I'm sorry. I feel like, you know, you're taking other people's places, and you're taking up space. And I don't appreciate it. I don't appreciate you coming into it when you don't give a crap about it. So I won't be supporting you. And whether my one vote or my one, you know, $5 book or whatever matters or not, that'll be seen.
It all has to start somewhere.
Yeah, and it has to be a willingness to learn from the various creators. Because you can come in blind, you can read a few books, and then just go around and say, listen, what should I read? You understand what's the good stuff? You know, and that's always the thing. You're always looking for. You should always be looking to read. You should always be looking to learn. You know.
I think the bigger issue with me and Chuck was the fact that this guy blatantly kind of blew off comics. Like, they're really not worth my energy. When you're on a panel about comic books and you're creating a panel, learn to lie at least about.
And it wasn't kind of. It was a full blow up. Like, let's not. Yeah, I don't just get annoyed because someone's like, I don't know, it's not my thing. Well, that's fine. It's not your thing. That's cool. No, this was a full blow up. I'd rather talk about something else. Like, well, that's not what we're here for. Fuck off. Like,
now, was it? He was the one. Was it his? Whose panel was it? Was he just invited in, or he just came in?
They were invited in.
They were invited in. Gotcha.
As a comic creator who had something coming out, they were going to come, and no one knew that this was the way it was. You know, I always assume if someone's in comics, they at least care. You know, and they want to know more. I really liked what you said, JD, where someone was like, I want to know more about comics. What should I look at? Like, oh, great, cool, that's fine. But this was a complete disregard and a not wanting to know anything. I'm like, oh, that's a bad taste in my mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that just drive you crazy, don't they?
And that comic kind of, it's about as original as putting out a new tire and just painting the side of it a different color.
Right.
I haven't read it, to be fair, but the idea does not feel original. That's all I'll until I've read it, I can't say anything.
But the art's nice. I'll give credit where credit's due, but you don't come onto someone's show, and this goes back to what we said at the very beginning about people going online and understanding it. You don't go on a show about comic books and tell the audience, well, you know, I really don't like comics. Can we talk about movies? They're better. It took a lot for me not to kick him out. We were about to lose. If you notice, and you can go back and watch it, was part of CyberCon. Go dig it up for those who are really curious on the Advocate channel. And you'll see I stopped directing questions to him the rest of the show because I'm like, you don't belong here. You just don't belong.
Right.
And you know me, my face, I don't usually hide my initial reactions. I was just like, I gave him some side eye. Like, what? Wait, what? Was that just stated? Really? At a comic convention?
Here's an interesting point that I don't think indie comics actually takes advantage of. Once a work is done and has been out for a while, reintroducing it should be as affordable as possible to attract new readers. I absolutely agree with this, and it does not happen enough in independent creator comics. You have a lot of creators. I'm doing that right now. I'm putting out all my earlier works actually in a trade format. I'm going to try to get it as reasonable as possible with the price to invite readers to read what I was creating back in the day. I do think people kind of sit on the old stuff. They don't ever use it again, and they just throw it away. Or being in Terraform Comics, I have to read submissions now. Oh my God. If your project has been stale for 3 to 4 years, don't pitch it to me. Don't pitch me your old trash that you didn't figure out. You know what I mean? Like, come on, redo it. Give me a new updated version. Tell me how you're going to fix it. Show me you care, not just, hey, I created this 3 years ago and no one ever did anything with it. Can you? I'm not here to make your dreams come true. I'm here to partner with you. What do you guys think about that? Is there a missing, like, because there was X-Men. For those who don't know, X-Men were canceled for a good part of their run, and that's why they became the Uncanny X-Men.
Well, they became the Uncanny X-Men because when Marvel started reprinting X-Men, and because back then they had a change in their distribution system, they could kick out whatever they wanted. They started reprinting X-Men from a certain point where the sales were incredibly low, and the sales on the X-Men books were higher on the reprints than what they were on the originals. So it was time to make a new team.
Yep.
So
yeah, it was like issue 60 something all the way up to like 93 or something like that, and then yeah, Giant Size came out, and then they came right back into it, and they kind of rebranded it as Uncanny.
Yeah. Yep. At the thing about getting your older work out there to at a lower, more affordable price, that's something that Peter Simeti is doing at Alterna. He's kicking out 3-part stories, and then he's putting them together in an 80-page book for $5 that he's offering. Plus, he's now picking up old crowdfunding properties. I don't remember the exact name. A couple of them now he's picked up. I know Downcast is one of them, where he's going to be reprinting the book a year or two afterwards, serialized and regular size comic books, and then probably collecting it again in a more cheaper format in order to get the property out there in the work scene more.
Yeah,
So,
there's definitely like a long history of books. One of the books that I just recently saw that was kickstarted that was just being brought back is Warlock 5. It's an old book that was reprinted in the 80s. And it's a gorgeous looking book done by Dennis Beauvoir, and unfortunately I forget the writer's name. It was a great book, and they're doing an omnibus and reprinting 2 issues that were never printed before that was done by this team. So I don't know if it ties up the story, but it's nice to see that happening, And I know for myself and some others, I know there's a book called Tales from the Aniverse.
I have no idea what you're talking about. No, none.
That needs to come out. That needs to come out.
Thanks,
need
buddy.
that.
Thank you.
Well, when Rob was talking about people digging up their older projects and bringing them back and saying, well, it didn't work then. Okay, but there's no reason why it can't work now. However, it does mean that you at least need to maybe look at it and go, why didn't it work? Maybe it was ahead of its time. Maybe it just, it didn't work in that time period, or, maybe your artist didn't work for the project. There's a lot of different things. So you need to not just grab it and say, hey, why don't you take this? Just go, hey, what needs to be tooled around with this to maybe make this work out for someone else and for it at all. Mm-hmm. Just because you did something in the past and it didn't work out doesn't mean it can't. It just means you have to figure out why it didn't and what you can do to make it better.
And here's another thing to hop on. I'm going to give Brian this. This is real quick. Independent creators could work together to make different crossover books without having to cross over their characters. Just get 2 of your friends together and release something that's cool that previews all 3 of your books. Try to work with each other again. Same thing we said at the beginning of the show. Brian, go for it.
Well, the point I was going to make, because Rob and I have been looking at the same contributions, and I will say, for my own publishing, a lot of people are looking for that break, looking for somebody to grab onto their coattail, onto somebody else's coattails and shortcut a lot of the process that the 5 of us have had to go through. And unfortunately, they haven't asked themselves, well, why didn't, like Chuck said, why didn't this get picked up before? Or a lot of people just don't read submission guidelines. Because I know in my very early days of submitting stuff, I didn't read submission guidelines. And when I first announced my own publishing, I got literally dozens of people who said, "Oh, good, you're publishing. You can publish my fill in the blank now." That's fine if you want to, run your publishing company with, all the masturbatory glee that you can summon. But if you want to run it like a real business, you're going to take a look at the quality. You're going to, have a very critical eye and say, okay, what makes this work? Why isn't it working? Is it easily fixable? And if not, you just have to say thanks, but no thanks.
Yep, I absolutely agree. Go ahead, Chuck.
Well, it's funny because I've also been on the other side of that, where I remember I was getting Welcome to the Void, which was my first book. I was getting it already, setting it up and stuff, looking at publishers. Maybe I don't have to do this one on my own. And I remember I've told this story a fair amount. Doing work for a guy, he had come to me and he said, I would like for you to edit my book. And so I went over his book and it was done. It was all done, lettered, everything's done. And so I went through it and I had pages of proofing edits to be done on this. And he and again, I was looking at a lot of publishers, and there were some publishers in my own home in my state that I'm in now that I was like, oh, cool. You're local. Maybe I'll hook up with you. And that person comes to me a little bit later and they say, oh yeah, so, and keep in mind, I proofed it, I sent him everything, and then within days he's like, okay, so this publisher, this one that I was looking to and considering, they took my book. And I said, oh, cool, all right, so why don't we get all this proofing stuff done? There was still some story issues, but it was all right. And he was like, oh, no, they want it as is. I was like, oh, wait, what? Like, you're not even going to proof this? No, they're happy with it the way it is. Okay, cool. Is my name on that book? No. Great. Do whatever the fuck you want. That's stupid. And now I will never go through that publisher. And I bear them no ill will, but there is two sides of the coin. You need to give a shit whether you're publishing or you're creating. And so I love it that, you know, Brian and Rob are both like, yeah, don't just send us your crap and hope that we'll give it a home. You need to care about it. And of course, for you guys who are sending your stuff up to publishers, if they're like, oh yeah, don't even worry about editing it, we're happy. No, they just want books. They don't want quality.
We also had the comment here. I do want to bring this up. If you do not like the work, move on and find stuff you enjoy. This is something I think a lot of people have forgotten. You see people who feel rejected. Look, Cat Dad and Supermom, it wasn't an easy sell. It wasn't an easy sell for me at all. First time I listened to someone and I did it the wrong way and I let things get in the way. The second time I had a actually very bad injury to my throat and I couldn't do any interviews or anything like that. And again, I just missed the mark. I could have given up. I could have ran away. Instead, I looked at it. I figured out what was wrong with it and I went back at it. I didn't give up and I found my market. What I never did was blame anyone for not liking my book. I never put it on anyone else. I took the ownership of it being my fault, my reasons that it didn't work. And like Ralph said, you have, if you don't like something, move on and find stuff you enjoy. I had to do that for the reader. I had to make them enjoy it. I had to invite them in. And that's something we forget as creators a lot of times. And I see this doing the Kickstarter program a lot. People start talking about why you should back their book without actually telling them, giving them a reason to back the book. Well, you know, I've done all this stuff. I'm fantastic. This is the best thing ever. And when you use words like that, you're putting words in a person's mouth. I don't know about you guys. I hate the pictures of people buying a book. The reason I hate the pictures of the people buying the book, they haven't read your book yet. That'd be like, here, you're going to sponsor with this Coke, but you can't taste it first. Smile, pretend you like it. And then what happens if they hate it? You know, what if they go, oh my God, that was the worst thing ever? No, I want honest feedback. I want people to tell me. What do you guys think? Is Ralph right? Do people just need to find their audience and stop trying to sell their book because it's for everyone? JD, you take it away.
All right. Well, yes, I feel that people definitely need to find their audience because, yes, not every book is for everybody. I'm sorry, but, you know, if you have a book of, let's say, the Smurfs, you're not going to sell it to the same. You might not be selling it to the same person who enjoys The Dark Knight or Watchmen. You know, so you're going to have to try to seek out that audience. Your audience might be a little bit younger, might be a little bit older, it might be the entire spectrum, but you need to try to find like-minded people. I know plenty of guys who love science fiction and hate fantasy. I do fantasy, so I'm not going to try to sell to the guy who loves science fiction. So you might want to just try something a little bit different and go in a different direction. But yeah, everybody needs to try to find their core audience.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with that more. How often do we hear, you know, someone is pitching you a book and talking about the book, and they're like, this is a book for everybody. And you're like, nope, no, it's not. That's not an actual thing. Who's your audience? And I'll ask that all the time when I'm editing a book. Someone will be like, oh, cool, here's my book. Start editing. And I'm like, no. There's things that we need to know before I even read your script. Who's your audience? And when they tell me it's for everybody, I'll be like, no, it's not. That's not a thing. You know, like you really need to aim for something. If other people take it in and stuff, that's great. But you actually have to aim at a dartboard. You can't just throw and hope you bullseye. That shit's not happening, man.
Mm-hmm. And it took me a long time as a creator to realize that. Like, you know, I just thought, hey, you know, have you ever read my stuff? Come on, it's there. Don't worry about it. It doesn't work that way because I write about a magical mouse. Not everybody wants to read about a magical mouse, and that's fine. You understand? But there are people who do. You just got to find them, and they're out there. I found some of them. I'm still looking though.
Randy or Brian, did you want to go in on this, or do you just want to get to the last topic?
Well, we'll always be looking for a new audience. So yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I'm big on marketing, and I think that's one thing that a lot of creators don't take into account. That your niche is out there, and it may just be a niche, but you've got to invest the energy and possibly the money to find them. But I would say the field of comics is rich and diverse, probably now for more than it's been in ages. And so if you want to do a book about left-handed baseball players, then by golly, there's somebody out there that wants to read it. But you've got to find them. But you just can't throw, shit against the wall and hope it hits every target. So you've got to keep your audience in mind. You got to know who you're creating this for.
All right, we're going to move on to the last thing, and this is where each one of us is going to talk about things that we think can help the future creators going from this point on. Yes, this year has sucked. We can't change that. We've been hit. We've been beaten. We've been put to a knee, but we're not giving up. DC's come back hard, telling Diamond that it's not good enough anymore. They want more. And that's a good moment in our industry. I know everyone wants to complain and bitch, but you got to find a way. You just got to make it work. Whether you're a comic book shop owner or a comic book creator, find a way to find your way past this year, because what you learn now will help you later. Well, I'll be honest with everyone. I was a big con-centric guy. I could sell. People have been amazed by how well I can sell. I can draw people in, I can communicate with them, and I can read people. I have a good way of knowing what to sell to them. This year was going to be my best year ever. I never had these many books. I never had so much potential to bundle. And then a virus came, and it stopped me in the tracks. It made me stop and look at my business. And if I was looking at my business correctly, I would realize that this whole time I've been doing it wrong, because I shouldn't have struggled. I shouldn't have had a wall hit. There should have been something else there to kick in when these things weren't happening. And I hadn't done that yet. This was an opportunity for me to learn that I have to change the way I'm doing things. I'm doing that. I'm finally getting with some great people and creating a publishing house, a publisher named Terraform Comics. I'm talking to comic book shops and getting my books into comic book shops. I'm reinventing the way that I'm actually communicating with people, and I've made a decision that the world is uncivilized. And even though I consider myself the uncanny indie devil, I'm going to try my hardest to be the most open and nice person I can muster to be, to foster the change. Because if you want to change the world, someone once said, and I don't know who, but it's a great quote, the change has to start with you, and then you can start changing the world around you. So I'm going to try to be the best me I can be. I don't know what that is. I'm not a perfect person, but I'm going to try my hardest to lead with my heart, but run my business as with the brains and the balls like it should be. But when I'm engaging with people, I just want people to see who I am at my core. The one thing I learned from my Cat Dad and Supermom book was the fact that when you're brutally honest with people, but you do it with your heart, people respond to that and they want to support you. Randy, how are you going to change, and what do you think will make the industry a better place for anyone? To me, it's lead with your heart, not your ego.
I just want to say thank you to the 25,600 people listening on DeViL's radio, especially in Germany. Woo! We love all of you. We deeply appreciate you listening. How am I going to change? I'm going to do more comics. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to stop. I'm going to try my best to stop trolling or being as negative. And it's easy when you get my age to get opinionated and get real negative. And start talking about more of the positivity in this market and the positive things around it. The stuff that I love. I love this business. I love this art form. I love the people that are in it to be in it. You know, the people that are like me, that have the ink in their blood, that are going to do comics for the rest of their life. Yeah, I admire people like Joe Sinat, who just recently passed away, always drawing, always out there, always friendly, always talking to their fans. I want to be one of those people. Anybody who wants to be in this business for any length of time, you need to get social, but you need to stop being antisocial on social networks. You need to stop trolling. You need to learn your business. You need to go out there and read and absorb comics. You need to read and absorb books about comics, and don't just take one book and decide that that person is the end all and know all of his subject. Don't believe me. Don't believe anybody who writes a book as being the big authority. Learn from different sources, and plus, if you're going to be in this business, please go out and experience some life. Get out from underneath your basement. Try to stay as physically fit as possible, because a lot of us artists have a lot of health problems as they get older. Same thing with writers, I'm sure. Brian can back me up. It's so easy to sit at your desk all day and not do any movement or be healthy. But go out and experience the world, because you use those experiences in your art all the time. So that's my big advice to people coming into this business. Get in it to be in it, and stay in it to be in it, and be creative. Try to think outside the box.
Say it, Randy. Say it.
Get an education.
All right.
You gotta get an education. And if you don't enjoy getting an education, maybe you should go learn how to be a barista. You know?
All right, JD, take us over. How are you going to make your particular business better, and what do you suggest to the industry watching?
Well, the thing is, I agree with Randy, but for myself, it's creating, putting out more Kickstarters, putting out more Indiegogos. But it's also, reaching out to the community. Like I said, I have my own YouTube channel under JD Calderon. And, and what I'm doing is reaching out to various creators. Some people I know, some people I don't know. I try to balance it out. If I invite somebody I know on, I try to invite somebody I don't know, because I want to learn about this person. I want to experience who they are, what they've been through. And I feel everybody's story is important. And I think that needs to be gotten out. Everybody needs to hear these different stories. And on top of that, the other thing that I'm really looking forward to is how is UCS and Lunar distribution going to pan out? And is it at some point going to help out indie creators? Are we going to be able to, at one point, be able to utilize these new distribution points just like DC? Because Diamond is almost a dead issue, and we know this.
Ryan, take it away.
Well, first of all, I'm going to move to a quieter neighborhood around July 4th, I think. But no, I will say that I do not mean this as bragging, but this is something I learned years ago in business, was always have a plan B. So when everything started shutting down and people were dropping their pencils, I let myself grieve for a little bit and then just started making a new business plan. And part of it involved pulling back from a lot of the fights on social media, because all it does is expend my energy that I could be using to create things or to make new friends, create new networking alliances, do more broadcasting that I think is of quality to my viewers. And so basically what I'm going to do is pretty much the same thing I've been doing for the last 3 months, Randy said, get an education. I'm studying marketing a lot more. My wife during this time learned how to do Photoshop. She's now my art director. It's really great. And I'm moving out into new areas. I'm creating new comics. I'm with Rob and the others at Terraform Comics. I'm really excited to see where that's going to go. But I think what I would recommend to anyone is create a business plan. Know where you're going. Don't just say, well, I'm going to put out a comic book and then I'm going to write the X-Men and Batman forever. It doesn't work that way. A lot of the people that you see in successful positions in comics work their way up to it. It took 20 years for Stan Lee to become Stan Lee. And during that time, he was honing his craft, learning more about the business. So by the time he really launched the Marvel Age of Comics, he's almost like an elder statesman because he's got the experience, he's got the wisdom. So like Randy said, get in there, get into the field, create what's in your heart. Don't worry about trends, because by the time you get your book out, the trends moved on. Just do something that speaks to you, speaks to your heart. Because it doesn't have to be superheroes, it doesn't have to be funny animal. It's just whatever you think you can do that's quality, and keep on learning. And just most of all, don't give up. We all stumble. Learn from your mistakes, and actually look forward to making them, because you get smarter after you make them. Because that's why I'm so smart. That's why I'm brilliant and humble too. I'm proud of my humility. That's because I've made a lot of mistakes. Oh, sweet God, have I made a lot of mistakes. But I'm still here talking about it, and I'm willing to pass on what I've learned from those mistakes to other people. And one day you'll be in that position too, I hope. Chuck, what do you say?
I say that 100 years of mistakes has been really good to you, Brian. I knew you'd love that.
I love you, Chuck.
No, but you know what? What I would love for all of you guys to do is to look at this panel, because when I look at this panel, I see. Thank you, Rob. That's perfect. Look at this panel. Yes, there's 5 comic creators, but what else I see is 5 people, and it's not just 5 white dudes, but 5 people who all work to support and show off other people's shit. All of us have shows that talk about other people's work, that show other people off, that really try to raise the community. And that's huge. Passion is so important. Of course, these guys are right. Educate yourself. Try not to fight. All that kind of stuff. It's so important. But your passion, what brought you in here, it's not about you, man. It's not just about you. COMiX is a collaborative effort, and so is the comic community. We're all working together in one way or another, not just to show off our shit, but to show off comics as an entire medium. So get that fire. If you don't have the fire, fuck off, go do something else, or have fun with your hobby. That's fine. But if you're serious about this, if that fire's in there, then give a crap about other people's stuff. Lift up the people who are really doing stuff that's exciting you, and show off the ideas and everything that are impassioning you and making you excited, and just burn, baby, burn. Because seriously, so much good can happen if people just got their shit together and just realized, I'm not competing with you. We're all doing things differently, but what we're all doing together is we're supporting our medium, and we're kicking ass doing it, and we're trying to do it together.
All right, let's all say goodnight. Thank you all for being here. Real quick, we'll go around in reverse order. Chuck, where can they follow you?
You can follow me. I'm now on Instagram. Holy crap, I'm on Instagram. Chuck Pino on there. I just got on yesterday, and it's weird, and I'm not used to it, and it's a little scary, and there's lots of naked people, but whatever. Scantily clad. Damn. It's very strange. Twitter, you can find me at Chucky Pin. You can find my Chuck's Raw Reviews on YouTube. You can find me on Facebook, Chuck Pino. Woo, almost fell. And you can find me rolling around all over the place.
Ryan?
Me, Rising Tide Publications, risingtide.pub. Also, we have a 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, interactive talk show called Nevermind the Furthermore. Please come join us. We talk about everybody's projects. And also, we do special educational interviews and fun interviews, too, on Clever Title Pending, Tuesday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, where we talk about creativity and the business behind it. I'm on Facebook. I've got a YouTube channel that I'm finally doing stuff with. Look for Camouflage 61821. Also, I'm on Twitter as Brian K. Morris. I'm on Instagram as Brian K. Morris. All the same, because otherwise I'd never be able to remember it, because I'm ill. Thank you.
JD?
You can find me on Facebook under JD Calderon. You can find me on YouTube. My YouTube channel is under JD Calderon. You can find my webcomics, The Oswald Chronicles, and also Tall Tales Online. And that's pretty much it. Right now, I'm also on Twitter under JDC1.
Randy?
You can find me on Facebook under Randy Zimmerman. You can find me on Twitter under Randy Zim. I don't twit very often, but I do pop in every once in a while. I'm on the DeViL's podcast Tuesday nights at 9 p.m. and Thursday mornings at 9 a.m. Both of those are Eastern Standard Time. I'm on the DeViL's channel usually whenever they're broadcasting and they want me on board, and I'm there. I also have a YouTube channel, Zim Geek, ZIMMGEEK. here on YouTube. So feel free to like and subscribe. There will be new content one of these days.
And make sure that you subscribe to IndieVolt.com. Make sure that you go there and subscribe. We're on the 9s every day except for Sunday. Well, this is going to be continuing to be a show where we challenge it. So if you guys want to challenge the idea of something, please send in your message. I'm going to switch over to the IndieVolt screen real quick, and I'm going to show you the emails here. Send your emails to IndieVolt@IndieVolt.com and include IndieVolt Live in the subject. And tell us what you want us to cover, and we'll cover that topic. We'll rip it apart. We'll do everything we can to it. Remember, guys, and I stress this, everyone talks about, and you can hear my son behind me, everyone talks about how busy they are. But you're busy with Netflix. You're busy with everything but doing the work. I'm a single dad. I'm raising a son. He's autistic, and I still show up to advocate for other people. Really stop making excuses and get off your ass and have that fire in your belly take over your entire way of thinking, and get out there and make your books, because only you can tell the story that's stuck in your mind. Only you can create what's stuck in your soul. You can follow me at MrAnderson.com, and thank you for being part of today's show. My shirt's getting taken off, and I appreciate you all on the radio for tuning in and listening to us. Happy July 4th, everybody, and check out comicbookadvocates.com. Remember, we have a Facebook group now for the Devil's Advocate on IndieVolt. Goodbye, everybody.
Stay safe, everyone.
Take care. Have a good night.